Hey there, Ben Mankiewicz with you. Thanks for watching TCM on a night featuring 4 movies directed by Joshua Logan. Logan split his time between Hollywood and Broadway. As a result, he had the luxury of turning down material other filmmakers could only dream of directing. For example, Josh Logan passed on the screen adaptation of an Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Loewe musical called My Fair Lady. When Jack Warner called him for the project, Logan said he'd only direct it if he could shoot on location in England. Warner insisted it had to be shot on the studio's backlot, which is where we are now, by the way. Josh Logan stood firm, and that's how George Cukor wound up directing My Fair Lady. Logan returned to Broadway until Warner called him to adapt a different Lerner and Loewe musical, which just happens to be our next film, from Warner Brothers in 1967, Camelot. Richard Harris stars as King Arthur, whose attempt to establish peace in England is interrupted when a love triangle emerges, one that includes the king. It is perhaps history's most famous love triangle, and I think the love triangle is the world's most famous triangle, coming in ahead of Bermuda, Isosceles, and the Triangle Offense. This story's love triangle includes Arthur, his wife Guinevere, played by Vanessa Redgrave, and one of his Knights of the Round Table, Sir Lancelot, played by Franco Nero. This time around, Logan convinced Warner to let him shoot some scenes abroad. The film is set in England, of course, but Logan shot much of it in Spain. England's medieval castles were either too run down or too modernized. Spain's castles, on the other hand, were just right. The country was full of well-preserved structures from the Middle Ages, many of which are on display in the film. Jack Warner produced the film himself. It is also the last movie he made for the studio, named for Jack and his 3 brothers. He sold his shares in the company, made at least $20 million, and became an independent producer. From Warner Brothers in 1967, also with David Hemmings and Lionel Jeffries, Camelot. Camelot emerged as a major hit when it debuted on Broadway, but Josh Logan, who directed the film adaptation, was not impressed. He thought the story in the stage production was too tame and the sets too similar to all the other shows he'd seen set in the Middle Ages. Fortunately, writer Alan J. Lerner had already decided to write a new scenario for the screen version, which Logan liked enough to agree to direct the film. Logan then brought on production and costume designer John Truscott. The two worked together closely to make sure Camelot looked unique among films with medieval settings. This involved making the costumes feel rougher and more textured, and whenever possible, removing the color red because it showed up so frequently in other movies about medieval times. Truscott wound up winning 2 Oscars for the film, one for art direction, the other for costume design. For all its success in the technical categories, Josh Logan was not nominated for Best Director. He ultimately earned 3 Oscar nominations, 2 for Best Director, 1 for Best Picture. He never won an Oscar, but he did win an astonishing 8 Tony Awards. Coming up, our tribute to Joshua Logan wraps up with a comedy he directed in 1960. Anthony Perkins and Logan's goddaughter, Jane Fonda, star in Tall Story, next on Turner Classic Movies.
Next on TCM, Tall Story, then Big City, and later, Flirtation Walk. TCM plays hard to get today.